hero of the day, Gilles Villeneuve. And Villeneuve's going through! Fantastic! Gilles Villeneuve leads! One of the finest drives I have ever seen in Grand Prix racing. Oh, the champagne, the traditional champagne for Gilles Villeneuve. The darling of the Italian crowd.
Salut Gilles, words that adorn the track here on the start-finish line in Montreal. A simple phrase and one that pays tribute to the man after whom this racing circuit is named. Canada's first superstar of motorsport, Gilles Villeneuve. Villeneuve had a humble childhood, growing up less than an hour away from the circuit that would eventually bear his name, in the small town of Berthierville. It was here, where a museum now honours his legacy, that his love of motorsport took hold, with the little Canadian cutting his teeth in the wild world of snowmobile racing. His success was immediate, and his childhood home was soon bulging with trophies. The prize money, meanwhile, was put to good use, helping to finance his track racing career, with Villeneuve racing in Formula Ford before progressing to Formula Atlantic, where yet again his innate speed and natural car control caught the eye. Villeneuve's big break came in 1976 when, driving this car in a Formula Atlantic race at Trois-Rivières, he beat that year's eventual Formula One champion James Hunt and several other Grand Prix stars of the day. Hunt went away raving about the Canadian, and his McLaren team were quick to sign him up to drive a third car at the 1977 British Grand Prix. But while Villeneuve impressed mightily in the Grand Prix, driving an aging M23 from 9th on the grid to 4th before hitting technical issues, the team's boss Teddy Mayer opted not to take up a full-time contract with Villeneuve, and he never raced for McLaren again. Villeneuve's destiny lay with another team, Ferrari. The partnership was a match made in heaven. In fact, the sight of a sideways scarlet Ferrari with Villeneuve at the wheel captured the public's imagination like precious little in F1 history.
You can see them, you can hear them. I can hear them roaring over the engine noise. The crowd is really going mad.
And by the time of the inaugural Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal in 1978, Gilles' popularity at home had exploded. That he then scored a maiden Grand Prix win in front of his adoring crowd only increased the sense of feeling, not just in Canada, but around the world. Though quiet and mild-mannered out of the car, in the cockpit this was a driver who just would not quit.
And it's fallen off at the middle of his car, he's gone sideways, he's managed to collect it, again through incredible car control.
Who pressed on regardless, always pushed to the limits, and often hauled his machinery to feats it had no right to achieve. Little wonder he became the darling of the Tifosi, not to mention team boss Enzo Ferrari. Today, it's hard not to hear Villeneuve's name without picturing him banging wheels with René Arnoux at Dijon in what remains arguably Formula One's most iconic battle. Or the sight of him wrestling a three-wheeled Ferrari back to the pits at unbelievable speed at Zandvoort in 1979. And what about Spain 1981, when in an exemplary performance he overcame his Ferrari's handling deficiencies to beat faster rivals and score his 6th Formula One victory.
And Gilles Villeneuve wins a fantastic drive, resisting pressure all the way. I am sure that he must be absolutely shattered in the car.
He was, according to anyone and everyone that ever saw him race, a Formula One world champion in waiting. But tragically, Canada's great hero would never fulfill his destiny. During qualifying for the 1982 Belgian Grand Prix at Zolder, Villeneuve's famous number 27 Ferrari collided and was launched into a terrifying accident. Several hours later, in hospital, he would succumb to his injuries and plunge the world of motor racing into mourning. In his small hometown of just 4,000 people, an astonishing 20,000 turned up to pay their respects at his funeral. And even today, 37 years after his death, he's still not been replaced in the public's consciousness or indeed their affections. Not even by his son, Jacques, who was able to fulfill his father's legacy in being crowned Formula One world champion in 1997. He remains an icon, a racing hero, a man who lived life on the edge and for whom the pursuit of speed was simply everything.